the last 5 of my 10 appraisals in Oracle, I have actually written that I want to become an automobile dealer. We started with, I think the first month we just sold 90 vehicles. And in the past 6 years, slowly, we have grown and we are averaging roughly about 600 vehicles each month now. I became a director at 35. Okay, and
You're a
probably
director
by
at Oracle 35.
yes.
That's
I was a
amazing.
director in a yeah, and I was heading a line of business for I had a huge number of staff in multiple countries. I ticked all the boxes, so to speak, for a happy corporate life, but something I was not happy. People around me, my family was very happy. My dad was very happy.
ARPRO is the world's largest network of professionals from the auto industry, and REVVUP is a program from ARPRO to highlight or bring in the spotlight on people who have been really successful in this auto industry, who have grown up in this auto industry. So I am sure all of you are members of ARPRO. If any of you are not a member yet, go to our website, which is given in the scroll below. You can see the scroll below. So in that, you can see our website. You can go there and register yourself on ARPRO if you're not a member yet. Okay, now coming to today's program, RevUp is a program where we have invited this very special guest today, who is Mr. Dharma Gorrepati. So Mr. Dharma happens to be a really passionate automobile enthusiast who has always wanted to work in the auto industry, who started his career after his engineering. And after that, today, he owns his own multiple dealership of Suzuki two-wheelers in Bangalore. Of course, how it started and how he has reached this far is something that we will know from him. So, team, let me switch to Pro Dharma. Pro Dharma, welcome to RevUp.
Thank you, Shrikant. It's nice of you to have me.
So, how do you like being on Air Pro?
It's a wonderful experience to have more people with you to pick more brains if you have a question, to learn from each other. It's been a wonderful journey so far on air.
Thank you. So, Pro, I would like to understand your way, the way you've grown up. So, I understand that you started working as a sales consultant initially. From there, you've grown up to have your own dealership today. So, could you tell us your journey so far, from how you started and how you reached this position today?
Good morning, everyone, and thanks, Shrikant, for having me over. And I think we should even thank the folks on the call who took time out on Sunday morning to listen into my story. So, my journey started about 25 years ago. I just got out of college and started uh, helping my dad in his fleet operations, which also happens to be automobiles. Uh, Within a few months, I realized that the business was not very big for two people to manage. Anyway, I did that for about a few months and then got back to sales. Uh, and like any dealership staff, who always the desire in dealership staff is always to work with me. I applied for a few OEMs and I got hired into Swaraj Mazda. I worked there for a year, and during the year, I realized that uh, working in the back end is not a cup of tea. I was frontline guy, so I quit Swaraj Mazda again, and I joined another company in another dealership in Hyderabad for the next 4 years. So after that, I was offered a job in GE by one of our corporate clients. I got the job just like that. Probably I was one of the very, very few people who get into a corporate company without actually having to attend a formal interview.
Okay.
Uh, and I joined GE in Hyderabad. We used to run a call center for a car club for the first 1 year. People would have heard about AAA and of the sorts. So there used to be a car club by name AARP. So we used to manage the call center from India. Those were the initial days of all the BPO and call centers moving into India.
Okay.
And so with after a year or so, I took an internal transfer to the aircraft engines business, and we set up a small team to manage warranties uh, from India. So we used to get all the field service reports from the FSRs, and me and my team used to process the warranties. In fact, that was a completely different experience for us, which taught us a lot of things. And a couple of them actually are now heading the warranty sections in a big airlines like Cathay Pacific and Emirates. So
Okay.
that was really. And by the way, those people have actually come from an automobile background, from a two-wheeler background. We hired them into GE. So the reason why I'm telling this is that if you're working for a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler company, it doesn't mean that opportunities are only there, limited to those industries. Um, so we did that for the next 3 years. That's when I moved to Bangalore. That's when I came to Bangalore. In 2004, I moved to a tech company called Oracle. During my corporate tenure with GE, I realized that you don't have to stick to only your domain. You can also learn a lot of things and apply that to outside your domain. So I became a more generalist and operational guy from being a sales guy. So I joined a company called Oracle. Most of you have heard about that. Uh, for the next 10 years, I worked in that company in multiple roles. I set up the operations center for one line of business initially for the few years. And then finally, by the time I came out, I was heading the collections in the finance department for all of Asia Pacific. Just to give you a sense, me and my team used to collect about 4.5 to $5 billion annually.
Okay. So it is a totally
Uh,
different field. So you are now ready to
a
venture into.
totally different department, yes, but yeah, that's what I was trying to tell you, that once you pick up things you work in different departments when you work in a company, you pick up different things and you can actually make a lot of difference. In fact, there were two or three engineers in the finance department, and uh, probably it's a little obnoxious of me to say the departments run by engineers were the best departments within the finance organization.
Okay. So probably that gave you very
So
good insight into finance also.
yes, 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 it did, it did. So finance guys typically, most of all might experience, typically ask why, but engineers ask why not. So that's the difference between an engineer and a finance guy. That's the training we get when we are studying up, or when we are working in the initial phase of our careers. That's the kind of training we get. They go by the book, and engineers hardly go by the book.
That's interesting.
So but this whole thing of setting up my own dealership and not any other thing, I was very, very clear that it is only an automobile dealership that I wanted to do. In fact, in our appraisals, we had a very open question as to what do you want to do long term and short term. Of course, doing after the self appraisal, we had to answer 5 questions, and one of the question was, "What do you want to become long term? Where do you see yourself long term?" And the last 5 of my 10 appraisals in Oracle, I have actually written that I want to become an automobile dealer and no
Wow.
other business. It was not something that I wanted to be on my own or I wanted to be a businessman. No, I only wanted to be an automobile dealer, nothing else.
Okay.
So,
So so
so that's the
throughout
kind of
your
clarity I
career,
wanted to.
you were very clear with your ambition that you wanted to.
Yes, I was. I was. Now I can say what probably if you asked me this question 15 years ago, what's your core strength? I wouldn't be able to answer. But now we are all, as everyone is wise in hindsight, I can actually say that I was more happy meeting people. I always used to be happy in airports. I used to be happy going to banks. I used to be happy in the showroom. So I guess I'm more of a guy who wants to meet people, right? You want to see more people, you want to see how they behave, you want to analyze what they do. That is probably the commonality that I can see for myself. Oracle was my last corporate job. That's where
Okay.
I took I mean, I was fortunate enough that my company gave me a sabbatical for a year. They were hoping I'll set up the dealership and come back and join them. But once I called a few of my colleagues for the inauguration, and my boss, they didn't let me go. So since 2013, my dealerships have been my life. We started with, I think the first month we just sold 90 vehicles. And in the past 6 years, slowly, we have grown and we are averaging roughly about 600 vehicles each month now. Pre-COVID, of course, not post-COVID.
That's fantastic. So you started off with no. See, it is a big decision when you actually move away from an employment to setting up your own dealership. When you have a perfect job, a perfect position, it is really difficult to actually take a decision to move away from that. You're working with a great company. So how exactly was that moment that, or what inspired you to take this decision? And
Okay, what inspired me? Um, it's like a classic Three Idiots story. I I became a director at 38. No, I became a director at 35. Okay, and
you're a
probably
director
by
at Oracle 35.
yes.
That's
I was a
amazing.
director in a yeah, and I was heading a line of business for I had a huge number of staff in multiple countries. I ticked all the boxes, so to speak, for a happy corporate life, but something I was not happy. People around me, my family was very happy. My dad was very happy, and a lot of old colleagues who we worked with, they were all very proud of me. I'm still in touch with a lot of them, but I was not happy. I was not happy because I probably, if I have to tell you, if I relate back to what I said some time ago, you are sitting in an office all by yourself. You're not meeting people, right? So there was a bit of unhappiness on that side. I used to travel quite a bit because I had staff in multiple countries. Uh, but I was happy for that one week when we were traveling. I used to travel to China. I used to travel to Thailand. I've traveled to Romania, US. I mean, a host of countries. So when you're meeting people, you're knowing about their culture, habits, trying to solve things. You're very happy. But when you come back, probably I was not happy. I was not happy with what I was doing. And yeah, when you become at 35, you become a director. Probably by the time I quit Oracle, I would have become a VP or something. But then, if you realize, let's assume that I became a VP at 40, and then for the next 20 years, what brings you? the motivation to do something, right? So I think yes, as I said, I ticked a lot of right boxes. Good job, 5 day week, well-paying job. Even today, for the first 3 years, I don't think my entire dealership could made money that I would have made on my salary. But then I don't think I thinked all those things. I was a little bit mad, so to speak. But yes, like any other person who takes these risks, the most important persons to ask was my immediate family, my wife. My son was small at that point in time, so he didn't understand what was happening. But my wife was very supportive. She said, "I need money to run for 2 years." Um, no. She actually told me that there's only one thing that she needs, which is the education of my son should not be hampered. So I promised her uh, money for 2 years, which I said I'll keep aside. I was getting some money out of my PF. Most of the guys were on the call might know PF is the only saving that you have. I promised her that money, but once that money came, I put that also into the dealership. She doesn't even know till now because that's what happens when you do a business. Right? You need money from all the places. But thankfully, by the grace of our customers and obviously the hard work of our employees and the God who's seeing from top there, we've been doing well. We've not faced any issues so far.
That's fantastic. See, it's really inspiring to know how you, have quit a well-paying job and went on to start a business. But I do understand the kind of, urge inside that actually wants us to be an entrepreneur. Now, as an entrepreneur, when you get on the business, when you started the business, like you said, of course, there is a lot of money that was required, and a lot of probably most of, I mean, many of us who have already taken this plunge always know that no matter what, once we start a new business, there is a lot of unseen requirement of money and a lot of other challenges that comes. So, could you recall some of the major challenges that you faced when you started?
Oh, yes, obviously, everything was a challenge. First, the mindset was a challenge because obviously, for several years, I was working, and suddenly you're a businessman, you need to take calls. It was not easy. It was very, very stressful until we started business. So the whole setup and obviously the kind of role that I had in a corporate versus you have a big team, you have a team who understands you. Things get done when you have a close knit team. Things get done once you tell them or ask for help. So everything was a challenge, to be honest. But the biggest challenge was the mindset of being a working person to moving to a businessman where the buck stops with you. Everything stops with you. Everything comes to you and everything stops with you. So you don't have somebody else. So it was very stressful, partly because the working culture was different for me. I was coming back after several years back into mostly in corporate companies and that to American a company like Oracle. It's a very Americanized way of working versus the Indian way of working, obviously different. So we did face a lot of challenges. We did a greenfield project for our dealership. It was not running on time, so we had to deal with everything from masons to the steel structure erection to there's one side there's pressure from the OEM to send things, the CI elements, and where do you keep and when are you starting. So trying to put all these jigsaw puzzles together was extremely challenging, stressful also, because there was a lot of change that was happening within. But all that went away, I think, the day we inaugurated the dealership. And then it was only business that we were focusing on. And we had only one thing to sell and service, right? You sell more, you service more, you sell more, you service more. That's all we had to do. So, yes, it was challenging. Obviously, there are some financial challenges, but if you really ask me, I would rate them lower than the mindset and other challenges. Because money is something which probably you have a good hand, and I mean, even if you don't have, there's someone who you borrow from. But the other
Okay, it's really interesting. Once you started, you said the initial challenge was setting up the structure and all that for your business. But after that, once your dealership was set and inaugurated, what were the specific challenges that you faced? Because you worked in a totally different environment, and coming to the retail sector, that too in two-wheeler in India, it's a totally different scenario. So, what were the initial challenges that you felt during that time, and how?
Uh, as far as business was concerned, there was not many challenges because although I moved away from retail, we were still all my old colleagues, and I have a lot of friends in the automobile retail sector. In fact, one of the very close person in Maruti referred me to Suzuki for a dealership. That's how I got the dealership. I don't want to take the name, but he was my RM in Maruti when we were working in a dealership, and he was instrumental. He was by the time I applied for my dealership, he was a very big man in the top 5 or 6 in Maruti. So that's how he recommended, and then I got the dealership. On the business side, we didn't face much problems. I was lucky to get a very good team right from day one. In fact, I'm so proud to say that in the last 7 years, I still have about 25% of my day one staff even today with me in the dealership.
Amazing.
Yeah, and they're all. We had a very good team, and they were all hungry to do business. So was I, and we definitely worked hard because we are located in a place where it is not clearly a rural or clearly an urban. It's a mix of urban and rural. So from one side we would get an urban customer, from the other side we would get a rural customer. Uh, so that was I wouldn't call that a challenge per se, because that's what you are in for, right? You're there to do business. You want business. So except for the fact that we went it in a very clinical fashion. Right from day one, we used to see where the leads are coming from. By pin code, we used to map the leads, map the sales at a pin code level. And I think we moved in a very clinical fashion, and we hit operational break even in the third month itself, which was I thought I didn't expect it to be third month operational break even. I was expecting it to be about 6 to 7 months, but I surprised. I was surprised that we hit it in the third month itself.
That's fantastic.
So yeah. I think I explained to my team every action that needs to be done, why it needs to be done, how does it impact the business. So once we followed that, I think it was easy for the team also to do. They were very energetic. They were very enthusiastic. So on the business front, although we did work hard, but I don't see it as a challenge per se.
Okay. Okay. Now, once you started the business, you said you were doing initial number itself of 60 numbers. That's something, I mean, to start with, that's really good. And today you've grown to 600 numbers. So, how many dealership branches do you have as of now? And
I think last year we closed at around 60 crores. If the books are not out, but it is somewhere in the range of that. I have 3 branches of my own, so we quickly expanded, and we have a like in two-wheelers. There's a sub-dealer model also which you have. So we have small pockets where we have a sub-dealer network also. And right from day one, what we consciously did not do was we treated the sub dealers also as our own branches. We don't differentiate. So, for example, if you go to our website, all the 6 or 7 sub dealers also would be listed there. So, every marketing activity, anything, it is done for the entire network. It's not limited to our own branches or something. So that we consciously did. We consciously picked people who would be part of our journey. We didn't treat them as a third party sub dealer. I think in hindsight, that has really worked for us. So even today, if my team gets calls from the sub dealer areas, they'll very openly tell them, please go to this sub. There's a location out there closer to your place. Please go there. You'll get a product. You'll get a service like that. The idea is to serve the customer and not selfishly serve our own organization.